So good afternoon, ladies. How are you today?
Good, Dr. Wani. It was really good, and thank you for having us over.
You're so welcome.
Well, very well, thank you, Dr. Wani. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you. What have you been up to?
Well, I've been resting.
Good.
I've done a lot of resting.
Oh,
I've also tried to catch up on just a bit of work.
fantastic.
So It's been
Fantastic.
quite relaxing for me.
That's great.
Well, I've had a short break from work. And I decided to
Beautiful.
make sure I catch some rest. However, in addition to that, I've been very deliberate about putting things in place in preparation for when I resume. And that's
Fantastic.
next week.
Aren't you guys so, serious, conscientious, the work? Because honestly, talking about rest, the other day I actually read something about sleep. And honestly, for me, it was like a light bulb moment because I read that when we do not get enough sleep, after a while, especially as one gets older, it affects people in the fact that it can actually cause Alzheimer's disease.
Wow. Didn't know that.
Honestly. And that's why you'll see that sometimes it's related to when you don't sleep enough, it's related to forgetting things and things like that. So they've actually found a correlation between lack of sleep and eventually developing. So the day I honestly read about that, I'm like, okay, you know what? I just need to get enough sleep. And even when it's during the term, and if I'm not, when I'm on holidays, I make sure that I actually try and catch up on my sleep. So
Really important.
I need to do
really
the same.
important.
please,
Thank you
it's
very
so
much for sharing that
important.
with us.
It's so important. So, Ed Talk. Ed Talk, as we all know, it's about, things to do with education, but also things that affect the society, things that have to do with all stakeholders, the parents, students, teachers, policymakers, everybody. We know that education is everything. Education is the foundation of everything. So even, creating an awareness on a topic is still part of educating people. So there's informal and there's formal education. So there's this issue or this topic, I'll say has been on the front burner for a while. I'm sure you might have heard about it. And it's to do with this, it's been there, to be honest, but it's now getting much worse. And it's the obsession or this allure of teenagers and drugs. They're just kind of drawn to drugs, even more than before. Because I'm sure it's not news that young people experiment sometimes with drugs. But in the recent past, it's almost something that's become an epidemic. It's all over the internet. It's all over. So I have something here. It's called War Against Drug Abuse in Lekki Peninsula. A meeting with the NDLEA, and that meeting was organized by the state, I'm wanting to meet with, they've invited parents, 1 minute please. They've invited parents, leaders of estates and communities in Lekki, Etiosa, Ibeju Lekki, VGC. They've invited people to this meeting. And it's actually titled War Against Drug Abuse in Lekki Peninsula. So it's so much going on. The other day too, I was, talking to a friend of mine who explained, it was just it's a funny thing that happened, but funny, but not
Pleasant.
Not pleasant, thank you. So this person, a nice couple, actually not just one person, a nice couple invited to a dinner, like a business dinner. So a client invites the lady and her husband to a dinner. They got there, they ate, snacks and all that. Were given cookies and all. They did not know. Because they didn't know too much about the client. Apparently the cookies had been laced.
Oh dear.
This couple, do you know what happened to them?
I can imagine.
They stripped naked at that party. Stark naked. They had to be taken to hospital. They were in hospital for 3 good days.
No.
3 good days. A decent family.
Yeah, that's so sad.
How could they ever have been?
Guessed.
So were they the only ones who had that particular meal?
At that point,
Was it served to others?
it
That's
was.
the question I was begging for
But did
answers
he
there.
have a motive?
But that's just how parties roll. That's what people do at parties these days.
This is so sad.
So obviously, some people might, I guess it also depends on ability to tolerate those things. Who knows if the people have been doing it? We don't know about the other guests anyway, but I know about that particular case. So it's so rampant. You can imagine if adults are doing that, what's going to happen to the children? So, what do we do as educators? You both are educators. You are leaders of schools. You are leaders in this sector. What are we to do? How do we safeguard our children? What should parents do? What should schools be doing? What should the society do? It's just something that really breaks my heart when I think of how vulnerable children are. Yes, please go on, Miss
Rise
Epel.
up to their responsibilities. Parents need to be aware that these things actually happen. So the important thing is has society made parents aware? How aware are parents? Many of them live in denial. Many of them believe it can only happen to the other child, not to their own child. Many of them believe so much in them. In fact, they still see their child in quotes as my little angels, like some would tell you. And as such, little angels will never get involved in such things. Little angels will be allowed to go to the next door neighbor's house. Little angels will invite people over, but you don't know what's happening in the room. Little angels go for sleepover, you don't know what's happening there. These things it's so sad, Dr. Wani, that the level of ignorance amongst parents these days. So we've got to rise up to our responsibilities. This should have been given to us by God, and we're going to give account to Him someday. How have we brought them up? Do we know where they are at different times of the day? Do we know what they go through? We equip them with things. Sometimes we think it's sending them to school, and it's not just about sending them to school alone. How much do you know about your child? If someone gives you a call and say, "Oh, I saw your child is at so and so place," would you believe or question or say, "No, that can never be my child"? You know, parents just need to rise up to the fact that there's so much, and truth is at this stage, and when I hear these things about children being allured, I always cast my mind back to when I was a teenager. At that time of your life, you're struggling with so many things. There's a lot of confusion going on in your mind, Dr. Wani. Society is pulling you here.
Yes.
Parents are telling you this. Your parents are pulling you from that angle. The church is talking to you. Where do you turn to? And then you also want to have some form of affirmation. You want to affirm yourself.
Yes.
You want to show that you're independent, and show your independence will mean for some teenagers try out all this stuff. So now I want to push my friends. I'm independent. I'm going to start smoking.
And there's that sense of belonging as well.
Yes.
So I'm also
So you
cool.
smoke, you throw it away, you take tom-tom.
Yes.
Like I know this is my day. You take tom-tom or take some drink or carry toothbrush and toothpaste around. You get back to the house. Hello, daddy. Hello, mommy.
Miss
Nobody knows what's going on
Epeon.
outside.
This is another side. I hope so.
If that happened in our time, I mean, it's gotten worse now. It's about to agree with me. It's gotten worse.
Thank you for that, because from what I hear you say, parents are in denial.
There are many parents.
They are not facing up to the fact that things have changed from their own days. But we're also, talking about that, and I'm coming to you soon, Mrs. Obafisoye. I also wonder, have things changed really? Because again, I look at some of, just as you said, some of those men, I'm sure most of the examples you gave would be guys in those days. They know what they used to do.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Because the truth is, a lot of the parents, especially the men, also have experimented with different things.
Very true, yeah.
So is that the problem? Is that why they're not able to even talk? Okay, so
Things have
evolved.
So we didn't have social media in our time.
Yes.
Right now, the platforms show children things they can do without being caught.
Yes. Yes.
They introduce them to so many things. You spoke about the food being laced.
Yes.
Rather, these things are sold in snacks.
Yes. So I believe what is going on is what the parents experimented with or whatever they might have done is quite different from what's going on these days.
Exactly.
And they don't seem to be aware. They don't think. So thank you so
much.
Yes. Thank you so who would have thought so? Beautiful. Thank you, Ms. Ekpeyon. Ms. Obafisoye, I'd like to...
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Wani. To be honest, I cannot disagree with Ms. Ekpeyon. I think parents are very much in denial. You know, and I'll say something about the comment that you made. They don't believe these things are close to home. In their own days, some of them really did these things. But they had to go extra miles to access.
So true.
They knew what they did to access these hard drugs. But their children don't need to do those things. These things are easily, readily available to them. So they're thinking, if I'm hearing about youngsters getting into drugs, my initial disposition would be, of course, not my son.
Not my child.
My son would never, you know. And it's every parent needs to accept, first of all, that the child is a potential drug user. Because of the world they live in now, not because they're bad. So every parent needs to accept that their child is a potential drug user. Parents also are in denial because they're not in touch with reality. They do not understand why some children might want to take drugs. They might not even believe.
So key what you said, Mrs. Obafisoye, because I've spoken to quite a number of young people. And when I hear things like even girls are taking weed, consciously, I'm not talking about eating something that's laced that they don't know about. They are actually taking, and I've heard, you know, of different reasons. From, you know, when you have a lot of children, you're talking to them. I've heard of different reasons. Some of them are so agitated. They're under a lot of pressure. And then they feel that it calms them down. So, what is causing this agitation? Is it expectations of parents? Is it society? Is it, you know, a lot of children abroad, they just don't want to fail their parents. They're thinking, my parents have invested so much. Because us, the parents too, were like, you know, do you know how much the exchange rate is? So they're under a lot of pressure, societal pressure, peer pressure. So, and then maybe with their studies, it's getting tougher. The higher you go, the more difficult it becomes. So if they never quite understood, maybe had a very good study plan or habit or whatever, so a lot of pressure. So to them, they're thinking, that's how I can cope. Some have said to me, it's about sleep. Again, it's still related to anxiety. They use it to sleep. They use it to calm down. So how then do we help these children? Because for a few of them, it's peer pressure. But for some, truly, I've heard of a child who said she started vaping for this purpose to calm. And I'm thinking, how does vaping really calm people down? But that for her, that is why she started vaping. I'm talking about good children. You know, so how do we help this? So I understand parents are in denial, very true. I feel that some parents also do not feel like when I've done something myself. So how can I then be correct? The moral justification, because they know what they've done. And then some of them are thinking, you know what, they would always experiment. Let them just experiment, you know. So some of them don't feel they have the ability to correct someone, maybe their children. But all those going on. But now what I'm going to be looking at is how do we help these children now?
Dr. Wani, I feel it goes back to home to start with. Every part of the society has a role to play. But I feel parent physical presence cannot be compromised right now. Parents need to be there. It has to be structured. They just need to be with the children.
But you can't be with them 24/7.
No, they're not supposed to. That's why I said it has to be. Every parent must have dedicated time when they're just with the children. They're watching TV. They're in the same room with them. Not necessarily, I want to talk to you. And there's something
they're observing.
They're observing because that's when reality comes out. Not when you're talking to them. They need, the physical presence has to be there. And they also need to speak to their children about these things.
Yes.
A lot of times as Christians, our strategy is usually, God forbid, not my child, in the name of Jesus. But I think we need to be more realistic and we need to have these conversations, Dr. Wani. I need to look at my son in the face and talk to him about these things and say, look, because initially parents thought it's only thugs and touts and terrible children. But good children, like we've seen, they're beginning to get curious. They're looking for coping strategies. And they need to talk to their children about these things that, look, I know some people believe you can use drugs for this and that. But let me tell you, it never ends well. They need to believe in their heart that even though my child might not be taking drugs right now, they might have friends that could introduce them to it.
Thank you so much for that. So I hear you talk about being observant. You know, I remember when my children were younger, it will be during the holidays. So even if I don't have that, of course, I usually am at home at the, at the end of the day, weekends and things like that. But I also used to leverage a lot on holiday periods because I'm there with them 24/7. And then you can observe that my child is doing this. This is against the values we taught the child. So just using that time to observe. So being observant and educating the children, telling them what they need to know before they're taught these things by friends. What else do you think? And then before we round up, I'm going to also ask you what you think we should be doing as schools. So what else can parents do to help these children?
Being a role model, because sometimes these children actually see the adults in their homes doing these things.
I just gave you the example of the person, an adult.
Look forward to
yes.
becoming older so they can actually start
Do
doing
those
these
things. Yes.
So really and truly, yes, parents need to watch. They need to be conscious that they're role models to their children.
Yes.
What you say, what you do matters a lot in your children. And for us, and schools as well, need to realize that this is our reality. What then do we then do deliberately? What have we put into the system deliberately to ensure that we counter these things that are happening out there?
Yes.
Have we consciously written down things that, okay, we're going to follow through with our children on this? Do we have days set aside and we can actually talk to them some more about the effects, negative effects of going this route?
Beautiful.
I know that I work in a church, and I remember there was a particular time we invited someone who was a medical doctor from one of the government hospitals to come in and talk to teenagers about the effects, the negative effects of drug abuse. And he used himself as an example. We also have another plan in place where we intend bringing in someone, an adult who has been, who actually abused drugs, went through it, but he has now come out clean. So he's coming to share his experience.
Beautiful.
First hand, hearing first hand from someone who has been through all the trials of being addicted and who has come out by the grace of God.
So I hear you say then that being a role model, but also using your experiences. Because I think what happens with young adults is we always come across as being perfect. But when we're able to actually say, you know what, I did this, I experimented with this. These are the things I experienced. You don't need to learn by doing the wrong thing. I think it makes us like real life people, because parents like to behave as if they were just, you just came from heaven perfect. So I think that makes us relatable, and then they can say that, okay, so I can overcome it. Thank you very much for that.
One other thing, they also, also to teach our children not to accept everything they see on social media. Everything you see is not true.
Yes. Thank you.
A balance, Dr. Wani, to what she said, which I completely agree with, is to also teach our children in schools and also at home that it doesn't always end well.
Very true.
So our children need to know that all those movies that you watch, you see drug addicts, and at the end of the day, they get into rehab, they come out looking beautiful. Statistics have shown that the majority of drug addicts do not end well.
Very true.
So whilst some people need to say, I've been there,
Yes.
they also need to know that the majority of the people who have been there did not end up well. They're still in psychiatric homes, they're dead.
Sadly.
Very true. They say that
wasted.
a number have lost their lives in the process.
Absolutely.
Not being able to fulfill the potential for which they were created.
So
You
sad,
know?
wasted lives.
Yes. Thank you. It's been very interesting. What else can schools do as a final bit? Do we come up with policies? You know, because how can we be proactive? How can we ensure that our students don't even... Of course, I don't expect any school to allow children, you know, to try anything wrong within their premises. But if they ever tried it, what should they do? And then how can we be proactive about this whole
I
thing?
feel the emergence and the effecting of a drug policy,
Beautiful.
substance abuse policy is not only expedient, it's absolutely imperative. You know, I feel every school should have one, educate the parents on the content and the children especially.
Beautiful.
It has to be ongoing. It can't be something that is done and dusted with. It has to be continuous. The children need to understand that if you do this, you know, these are the boundaries, these are the rewards, these are the consequences.
Beautiful.
And the school must make true the content of the policy.
I think so. That's so key. And I feel that even when the schools start that, I feel that we should actually recommend to like the associations of schools, so that if any child is caught doing things like that and cannot be rehabilitated or, you know, keeps doing it, by the time all the schools know, because the child is maybe leaves your school, goes to another school, it will be there. It will be part of the transcript. So I think that with parents too will take it more seriously, because even if you left this school and you go to the next school, that record will go with your child.
It follows you.
So I believe that, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. We all must come together in order to help the children. So a few last words from you, Ms. Ekpeyong, what would you say?
The parents should not leave it to the school alone. This is about the society as a whole. The society, the federal government, the state government, the local government, parents, the school, every adult, the next door neighbor. We should all work together to fight this.
It's very important.
Evil.
Thank you so much. I think parents must even own it. They are the first teachers of their children.
Very true.
And no matter what happens, that child will remain with you. Even if the child, you know, leaves the school, that is your child, and you can see.
At the end of the day, who loses?
Who loses?
The parents will definitely suffer a lot.
Yes.
Society would also be what have done.
Yes.
The school as well. I mean, your name is also at stake.
Yes. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the worst hit will be the parent, and the child and the parent. So I think when parents begin to say it, right before, you know, what happens is parents will leave it to the church, to the school, to the society. But that's your child. It's your child, and you must understand that you are a custodian of that child. You will give an account for that child. You are the first teacher of that child. So I think we need to get parents to really understand, you know, the role they're supposed to play.
And believing the teachers will do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
For you to do it.
Exactly. How does the teacher know that the cookies that the children will share during break time is laced? How is she supposed to know that? Is she going to taste it? So, thank you so much, Ms. Ekpeyong. Mrs. Obafiso,
I feel it goes back to parents, to be honest, because they really do need to own this.
Yes.
Parents must guide and guard the access they've given their children, you know, to the outer world, you know, especially via social media. You can't throw them out in the world and just let them be. You need to, you know, in a reasonable way, in a decent manner. You must guide and guard the access.
Thank you so much, ladies. It's been wonderful. You know, it's an eye-opener. I think it's such an important topic at this point in time. And I would just like to put it out there that we all need to come together. We all need to come together to work and to help our children. We all need to understand that we must be role models. So we shouldn't be going to parties ourselves and be drugged at parties. We shouldn't. I should be able to go out to a friend's house and not eat something that is laced. you know. So we really need to, the society needs to, just more awareness, talking about things like as we're doing right now, and just, you know, continue to ensure that our children, we continue to reinforce those values in them. We're observant. We're just teaching them, and above all, I would say, we keep praying. We keep praying for them. We keep praying for them. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Lovely having you. And I hope you'll be here the next time I invite you to join.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks. Bye-bye. God bless you. Bye.